hey, I'm Mike the Cop, and no, I'm not a teenage girl or a teenage boy who ate too much chocolate. That's what it is, right? Chocolate?
What?
This is a cut from jiu-jitsu. I'm pointing out the obvious. So many people ask me about my freaking...
Why are you talking about a teenage girl eating chocolate?
Because it needs to be addressed before this video starts.
I got you. Yeah, I will defend my brothers. I will defend the weak. I will pursue and fight evil so others may sleep. I am the sheepdog, protecting the night. Wolf hunters unite. Bring it on. It's time to fight.
What's up, guys? In the 8.5 years that I've been in law enforcement, I have used four guns. 4 of them. I learned to shoot on the Glock 17 that was in the police academy. Then I switched to a P226 40 caliber for my first department. I had another interim where I had a Glock 22, I think it is, the 40 cal, and then transitioned to the Glock 21, the full-size frame 45 caliber. Love that gun. It was a great gun. Now I switched to this part-time department, as many of you know if you keep up, and I had a choice. I could choose any gun that I wanted for 40 or for 9mm, and I much prefer the 9mm over the 40 caliber. Not what this video is about, but I ended up going with a Gen 3 Glock 17 and got it seriously upgraded by Agency Arms. And no, Agency Arms did not ask me to make this video. I'm just keeping it real and keeping you informed on what's on my gun belt. So we're going to talk about that today. My son/producer just pointed out that I'm wearing an Agency Arms shirt. That's true. I did talk to the owner, and he did send me this because I told him after I got this gun, I was going to be doing a review of it. So I said, yeah, I'll wear your shirt while I talk about your product that you made me. I want to go through the list of what they did different to this Glock than what you would get out of the box, and talk about what the advantage in theory would be for that before I go in and shoot it. The gun is safe. There's no mag in it. There's no ammo in the mag, so don't freak out about me pointing the gun at anybody. There's nobody in my field of view over here. First thing that they do with the slide, there's some obvious like customizations where they etch their symbol in it, but the actual functional change is to the serrations in the front of the slide. And there's 2 reasons for that. First is a better grip for gripping the slide to rack it back, and the other reason is that it takes weight off of the slide. With semi-automatic pistols, it is good to have a lighter slide actually, because the recoil can do the work for you anyway. So you don't need a heavy slide. Like when you think about a revolver, a heavy revolver would absorb some of the recoil. In a semi-automatic, you want a lighter slide, and that will actually assist the cycling of the round. So that's what they did to the slide. I kept the stock Glock sights on here, and if you see me shoot, maybe you think I should change it, but I actually prefer the stock sights on Glock just because that's what I learned with. I've done the night sight Trijicons, and it literally made no difference in my shooting. The reality is, I'll talk about this in a little bit, but the reality is that I don't even hardly ever use the sights on my gun. Today would be an exception because I'm more like just standing there target shooting, but the type of shooting that I'm used to doing regularly or training with is what's called combat shooting. So you shoot on the move. So sights are relatively an indifferent point. They did a full frame rework. The most noticeable difference immediately is the stippling that's on the grip. They removed the finger grooves and machined this around and put the stippling all throughout. So even as far as when your finger's like high and on the slide, is the saying, even up there, there's stippling available. And it has a really great, comfortable feel to it. And obviously the stippling has some advantages of good grip. And I don't know, I like the feeling of it. And it definitely sticks to the hand pretty well. They do a couple of things to the trigger guard. They square it up, so you'll notice that this is a little bit different than stock. And they also machine this out a little bit so that that middle finger comes up a little bit higher for a slightly different grip than you would be used to on the Glock. And I'm filming this intro part after I've already shot, and this is something that I think it has made a noticeable difference in the way that I'm gripping the gun, and that will be probably the biggest facet that I need to get used to when I shoot this gun. The mag release, they bevel around this to make it easier to access. That's only going to be up through Gen 3. I think Glock themselves have improved this on their own in Gen 4 and 5 pieces. but this makes it a little bit easier to access the magazine release. As far as the trigger goes, you'll still see that they have the trigger safety on here. The actual trigger itself is swapped out. It's a little wider, and what that's in theory supposed to be doing is, no matter what the size of the pad of your finger is, it's going to kind of push you toward the center of it and let your finger rest a little bit more naturally on the trigger than something that's a lot more narrow. And so sometimes if you have a narrow trigger or the stock trigger, depending on how you grip the gun and your finger size, it may have an impact on where that lands on the trigger. This sort of like guides it over, and it sits nicely across the whole base of the trigger when you do that. They do some slight modifications to the trigger bar, but other than those minor ones, the way that this is put together, all of the standard factory safeties are in place as Glock would have them. So that's a key component. Obviously, to use in patrol, we wouldn't want to be modifying the safeties of that. That can be modified, but as far as a patrol series gun, as far as using this in law enforcement, you would want the safety features to be fully intact. They swap out the barrel with a match grade barrel, like a diamond-like cut, and you'll notice I'm gonna do this again. The gun's not loaded, but if you want to move the camera around to in between us, so the way the barrel is put together, it would in theory improve the accuracy of the barrel. Lastly, you've got the mag well. It's angled in a way to help assist the mag make it into the gun, and it's a nice low profile mag well for concealed carry. So, and it's a nice little comfort spot when you're gripping the gun. So I like it. I definitely don't work for Agency Arms, and there's no extra kickback in this for me at all. I'm just being honest because I did a gun belt video before of like what's on this cop's gun belt. People were really interested in the equipment that I was carrying, so I figured a follow-up to see that I'm swapping out my gun at this new department. So I figured I'd keep you up to date on what I'm carrying or what options are out there. This one is called the Patrol Series. So it is designed to have those minimum modifications that keep it law enforcement compliant, I guess, if you would. A lot of people have asked me that personally know me about this gun, saying, well, could you get sued if you used it, if there's any types of modifications? The reality is there are no outstanding lawsuits or no issues legally with this gun, because everything about the gun, like I said, the safeties, that's all still manufacturer original. So those things are all there. There's nothing being changed in this that changes the function of the gun. So there's really no foreseeable issues with that. So let's go inside. This will be the first time that I fire this gun. I'm gonna put it through a few mags. There are obviously break-in periods on firearms, and we'll see how this one does. We'll see how I do. I'm not some kind of expert shooter. I did compete one time with somebody, an old police chief of mine. I did compete, so I'll link that video in the description too. And I won, by the way. What we're gonna do today is more like just dialing this in, fundamental mechanics of shooting, of which some days I'm better than others. But again, shooting on the move and combat type shooting is really what's most beneficial. Even if you're not in law enforcement and you're a concealed carrier, or you're an open carrier, or you don't do any of that stuff, but you want to be able to defend your home, then you want to be able to practice combat shooting. Just doing what you're going to see me doing today is actually pretty lame, and while it will help with the mechanics, breath control, trigger control, grip, those basic things, it's not going to help necessarily in a stressful situation. Those fundamentals are important to have, but there's a lot more to shooting in terms of a combative situation. So obviously we're inside the range now. The bottom line is that you can have all the greatest guns in the world, but if you have basic mechanics and you don't trip, it's not gonna make the rounds magically appear on the target. I'm gonna see what this gun feels like, and I'll report back afterwards how it was. dialed in there at the end. So I don't know how loud it's going to be in here. Trigger definitely feels a little bit different. It's very, very comfortable on the finger, but I have never shot with any type of actual altered trigger. So while it was comfortable, definitely a different experience for me. And the trigger reset was different than I'm also used to. I actually think I prefer this trigger reset. It's really snappy and noticeable. So if you're used to shooting with that trigger reset, then I actually like this. So I got dialed in. Let me bring the target in here. So I was shooting a little bit left, and then kind of like got it dialed in. I noticed that my grip was a little off, and I was also anticipating. I wasn't waiting to be surprised by the gun. So feel like another mag here, and just get used to the way the trigger feels, and making sure that my grip on the gun is where it needs to be, and we should get dialed in. So let's find out. When I first started shooting today, I was using this type of. I switched it up to this way. The first few shots I did good, and then everything started drifting left again. Definitely not the gun. This is me shooting today for whatever reason. It's anticipation. So this left and right will happen with that anticipation. So that's just on me. The gun feels great. I love the trigger, love the reset, and I think maybe it's that feeling of a new trigger, and I'm just like have a poor habit of anticipating. Oh well. Either way, I think I killed the alien, I guess, if that counts for anything.
So I'm gonna outshoot Mike the cop today. I got a shot. It is what it is. Got him in the neck. Aiming for the jugular. As you can see, center mass, but also hit him in the jugular. That's a major artery. Would have died fast. Alright, he just grazed his ear. I hit everywhere. Closer to the genitals, I mean, win-win.
When police are involved in shootings, people, they should have just shot the knife out of his hand or hit him in the. Well, our alien has 2 legs, a ray gun, and a knife. I don't know if this is accurate because it's a new mag, but like 14-ish rounds. I'm gonna see if I can hit the knife, the ray gun, and both legs pretty quickly. Like, I'm not gonna try to like pause and like aim too much. Ironically, it was the legs that I had the hardest time with. First shot on the ray gun, first shot on the knife.
I know, I saw that.
This alien guy, I guess it's like I need to put more pressure on myself. Okay, this is go time. All right, so let's see what happens. However many rounds left, I'm going for the right dot. I'm killing him in the brain. It's the hive mentality. I'm killing the whole hive right now. This one's gone, but the hive still lives. All right, my overall impressions of the gun, it feels really good. It feels different than what I'm used to, but it feels very comfortable, and I think that I'll be able to acclimate pretty quickly. I'll be excited to get on the range again next week, and I'll get on a range where I can actually move around more and draw from my holster and that kind of stuff, and do some more things that are practical and real world for me. Overall, I really like the gun. I can't wait to shoot it more, finish breaking it in, and clearly I'm due for some refreshers on my mechanics and fix some issues. So make sure that I want to kill the alien in the brain every time. Every time. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification button for my channel. If you want to find me off of YouTube, you can always add me on Snapchat, follow me on Instagram or Twitter, like my Facebook page, and if you really like me, you can also check out my store or my Patreon page.